For the latest episode of PiXL Drone Show, I am thrilled to welcome my friend Skip Fredricks of Hollywood Drones. Skip is a two-time Emmy nominee and winner, I should add, and he wears a variety of hats in the drone industry as a pilot, producer, writer, director, and educator. I first met you at Inner Drone Expo, and we had an immediate kinship. You're just so personable and down to earth, and it was so refreshing to be able to meet someone like that at the expo. And so I just want to say, in spite of all your success, you have these traits, and it's just so wonderful to have you here on the show. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, I love Inner Drone. And yes, I remember meeting and talking. And Inner Drone was great because it started my career pretty much. They were willing to take a risk on me when they first started doing one of their seminars. And so I went up on stage and did the seminar. And then Inner Drone became like, a regular thing, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe your statement of being approachable. It's like, when you look at everything in the entire world, I mean, basically we're flying drones. It's like if you're going to have an attitude about that, then you totally should be in a different business. So I love what I'm doing. I really love flying the drones. And I'm really, really excited to be here on your guys' show because I watch you guys all the time. So this is just trippy for me. So I'm loving it. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, that's great to hear. So before we do get into drones, what attracted you initially to film?
Uh, Quite by accident. I was I've had a bunch of weird. So I was a professional jet ski racer. That's how I earned a living. During college, and when I got out of college, I was actually a national champion, so I was pretty good at it. And I worked with
That's awesome.
sponsorship. Yeah, I work with a lot of sponsors. I mean, you know them to this day. No Fear, Red Bull, Power Bar. All the companies that always sponsor extreme sports. And my dad had gotten a hold of one of these. VHS video recorders, the old kind where you had to carry it like in a big like strap and you had a separate camera. And I was like, hey, maybe we could do like a video of me racing. I could send it out to all these sponsors. So didn't know anything about videos. We shot the videos, sent it out to all these sponsors. And now we're talking, I'm going to date me here, but we're going back to like 1990. I think I started racing in 91. So we're going back then. And so it was like everything was new, right? And MTV videos, all that kind of stuff. And so I raced for about 7 years, and then this is the best part of the story. So in like 1997, I was doing a Pro-Am celebrity event, and Brian Austin Green was there, Jason Priestley was there because they actually race. So it was Vanilla Ice, and we were doing this Pro-Am celebrity thing, and Vanilla Ice went the wrong way on the course and basically hit me going 60 miles an hour, and pretty
Wow.
much he broke both my hips, crushed my thigh bone, all that stuff. So I was a
No
mess.
way.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
crazy. So it was a mess, and I was in emergency room. I was in for about 10 days, and then they took me. This is in northern Florida. Then they took me back down to southern Florida. I'm originally, I hate to say it, I'm originally from Florida, but since it was like 25 years ago, and I've been in Los Angeles, I don't even talk about that part of my life because Florida. And what happened was I started the ESPN guys. Everybody felt sorry for me because I'm the guy with crutches. That was used to be the national champion. And because I was always being interviewed by them, they actually wanted me to start doing color commentary because at the time the jet ski racing was big. It was brand new. We were on ESPN. We were sponsored by Budweiser. So as I'm doing the announcing, I started telling the director. I'm sure he loved this part. Telling the director where he should put the cameras. Right? Oh, there's going to be a crash over there. There's going to be a crash over here. So they actually started letting me do more production, which I really loved. And then the guy says, oh, he goes, you're down in South Florida. He goes, I got a buddy of mine down at the ABC affiliate down there. And he said, I can get you a job, as like a cameraman assistant. I'm like, that's what I want to do now. So I was starting to walk a little better by then. It took me about a year and a half to almost walk again. And so I got a job down there, but it's just like every TV job you ever hear of. It's like I was getting coffee and I wasn't learning anything. But I was at the station and I had an opportunity there. And then there's another story, which we might talk about later, where I was able to jump the shark, get ahead of all the people that were over me, and end up getting a gig at Fox Sports. And then Fox Sports in 1998 hired me as a producer. They moved me out to California. They set me up with a big production studio, and I started producing these 5 shows where the Emmys came from. And that pretty much started my television and film career. I learned everything that I know about television and film from, I think reading Video Maker magazine and books at Barnes and Noble when they used to have books. So that's how I get my start.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
There's still
That's
there's still a Barnes and Noble near me, and I do enjoy going in and just picking up books and actually, that it's incomparable.
paper.
I
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Even with the wealth of knowledge we have available online, there's just something special about it.
That's a
The smell. You walk into a Barnes and Noble and you can like smell the paper. You can smell the coffee. It's like as soon as you walk in there. And
Mhm.
we have one close to us here in Palm Springs. The one in when I lived in Hollywood, one that I used to live pretty much right over. They ended up closing. But yeah, there's nothing better than going to a Barnes and Noble at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, grabbing a latte or a cappuccino, and just piling the magazines and reading them. The books too, but mostly magazines.
So, Skip, when do drones get into your workflow at this stage?
Um, So my forte and my niche, and you have to have a niche in this industry, otherwise you just won't get work. Um, I'm sure you realize most character actors work their entire career. Superstars, not so much. So I found my niche to be in action sports, and so I started really focusing on the kind of cameras and building them, working with companies building them that you would use for action sports. So this is pre GoPro. So the idea was we wanted to come up with cameras that we could mount on boats and jet skis and cars to create action for the person's point of view, like the viewer, POV cameras. So I was always looking for that next thing. And then what happened was by producing all these action extreme sports content for GoPro, I mean, for a Fox, um, I started getting work in commercials and music videos where they wanted that similar look, the sort of the look from the actor's point of view, the look from the idea that we're putting a camera on these big cameras, we're taking them apart and putting the lenses and stuff on a go-kart or jet ski or motorcycle. So when the GoPros came along, that was great. Like, oh, cool, GoPro, we can figure out ways to mount it. Wasn't broadcast quality, but the networks were willing to give a little. So were the filmmakers. I'm at NAB, National Association of Broadcasters, in Vegas, and I go to the back where the international section is. And no kidding, I ran into the DJI guys. Like they're there, like this is 2013, right? And 2012, and all of the Phantom ones are just stacked up in boxes, and they're like selling them off their 6 foot folding table. It was hilarious. I mean, they were nobody, and so there's a crowd around them. They got one demoing, and I walk over there. And I'm like, of course, nobody speaks good English. I'm saying, hey, look, what do these do? And so he's trying to explain to me what it does. Oh, you can hover, you can fly, you can do this, you can do that. I'm like thinking, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I'm gonna strap a GoPro to the bottom. This is great. So I did. I talked him into giving me one. I don't know how that worked. Oh, I know how it worked. I showed him my Fox TV,
Ah,
ID, Fox Television. I want a drone. Okay, sure, here. So I took it, and then oh my god, there wasn't like you guys. I couldn't go to your YouTube channel and learn how to fly a drone because there was nobody there. There's no drones. There's nobody knew how to fly. You'd have to deal with these old remote control airplane guys, like 60 years old, and
if you plug it
flying
in,
these wooden airplanes. This is useless.
bring it up.
So I get this drone. I don't know anything. It doesn't have a monitor, and I'm flying around all over my sister's backyard. She has a big yard out here in Palm Springs, and I'm hitting everything. I'm running in the trees. I didn't know nothing. So I said, this sucks. This isn't going to work. So my buddy, his name is Robert Aravella. He's a director stunt coordinator. He works in all of Robert Rodriguez movies. So he's doing this low budget sci-fi movie in the hills of Los Angeles. Said, dude, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Come to the shoot. We got this scene where we got these zombies fighting these space aliens. And you fly around. I'm like, okay, great. So I go there. I got the GoPro 2, I think at the time, Velcro to the bottom of the drone. There's no monitor, so there's no way to look at it. I don't know how to fly the damn thing. And so I take off, and the battery only lasted like, 7 to 10 minutes. A stupid battery in the back. And so there's these zombies and aliens fighting, and the drone is going like this. Well, the director's going freaking nuts because the drone's dropping into his frame, right? It's kind of like a boom mic. And he's like, "Ah," yelling and screaming. And then I'm like, almost take out some of the actors. And so that wasn't any good. Long story short, obviously it's a long story. So what happens is we get like 5 seconds of usable footage because all of a sudden we discover this thing called jello, right? Because of the frequency of the motors it shook the sensor in the GoPro so
Oh,
bad, the image went like this. It jelloed. I'm like, oh, this sucks. So now, but here's the cool part of the story, and here's where my career fortunately advanced as supposedly ended. One of the big guys from Sci-Fi was there, one of the executives, and he's like, and back at the beginning, they're like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. We need to give them to all our camera people. It's amazing. And then because the drone kept dropping into the scene in post-production, that's where you edit stuff, the digital guys put a digital orb around it. So now every time my drone would fly into the scene, it was flying these laser beams at the bad guys. So that's where it started. And then, they just started talking to me about using it in more of their low budget stuff. And we're talking budgets lower than Sharknado. But then fortunately, the Phantom, the Phantom 2 came out, I guess, which had a camera on it, which wasn't very good. And then the Phantom 3. So the Phantom 3 really changed everything. So because I'd already been in the industry at this point for 15 years, everybody already knew me anyway. So taking a Phantom was just like taking another camera. It wasn't anything, it was just another camera in the bag, right? And so fortunately, I was able to continue working with this and experiment in low budget films and music videos, TV commercials, stuff like that. After that, freaking thing just took off, so to speak, right? I guess that's a pun.
mhm.
Drone industry took off. So for the
That's
first
okay.
time ever, I wasn't. So you don't want to be. I had a friend of mine, my agent says, you don't want to be a pioneer in your industry because the pioneers are the first guys to get the arrow in the back. So you don't want to be the pioneer. What you want to be is you want to be the guy that's following the pioneer, so that you're running in a safe area and you kind of see which direction he's going where there's nothing dangerous. So for the first time, I wasn't on the top of the wave. I didn't miss it. I wasn't on the bottom of the wave where I was going to get crushed. But in my industry, in my niche, I was right in the sweet part of the wave. I wasn't the pioneer. And
Mhm.
it's just like everything moved forward for me. I'm so fortunate and very lucky the way this whole thing worked out. So that's
So
the
maybe
drone
maybe
story.
this maybe this is a good point to jump in there with my question, because I think you're about to answer that already. How have drones impacted your career, and maybe also which drone has had the most impact on your career, or maybe even also the drone industry over the time that you've been working with drones and in the film and TV industry?
So obviously, that's a great question. Interestingly enough, the cinematography and film as a mid-level producer is what I am. I'm a working producer. I go out there and I do the work. So the salaries they flatlined. They've been flatlined for years, right? You can, as an
Yep.
example, I'll give you a quick example. I can go out and do a BMW commercial, director of photography. I got to be there all day. I got to be there from 5 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And the rate's about $1,500, $1,800 for the day, which everybody says, "Ooh, that sounds great." But maybe it's 1 or 2 or 3 days. Now, I did a drone shot, one shot for the BMW commercial in downtown Los Angeles. I got paid the same $1,500. I was there for 45 minutes. So the drones have significantly impacted my career. So much
Hmm.
so that I've turned down in the last, specifically since the Mavic 2 Pro with the 1-inch sensor, that changed, and to an extent, the Phantom Pro version 2 with the 1-inch sensor. But once, and I'm going to say DJI because they did it first. Once DJI put a
Yep.
1-inch sensor on these drones, they changed aerial cinematography forever. And once they did that, I won't put a camera on the ground anymore. I won't film with a camera on the ground. I will not take a job where I have to have a camera on a tripod, on the ground, on my
Uh-huh.
shoulder. Only in the air. I don't. Creatively, there's so many more things to discover. With a drone in the air, it's just by accident you'll do a move and like, wow, that's cool. I've pretty much, with a camera on the ground, I've shot every possible way to tilt, pan, track, dolly. I
Mm.
mean, it's all done. And to me, it's boring. But every time I put a drone up in the air and there's something new, there's something exciting about it. So um, I'm gonna, the DJI to me is the game changer. I've had them all. I've had the Parrot and I've had
Yeah.
the Autel. I've had them all, but DJI to me, the 1-inch sensor was critical. It allowed cinematographers like myself to match resolution with 1-inch DSLRs or mirrorless cameras or even cinematography cameras. So that was the big change. And then when they came out with the Mavic 2 Pro and the smart controller, well, that that was like putting one of those cameras in the sky. So I was very happy with that drone, and I've done a considerable amount of television production with that drone.
Quick question before I get into my next one about the Mavic 2 Pro. Have you ever had any issues with line skipping or pixel binning?
Yes. So but no different than I would have with a video camera or DSLR or mirrorless.
Mhm.
So it happens, and maybe more so with the drones because they are attached to a gimbal, and they are attached to a drone, they are getting banged around.
Mhm.
But usually before I deliver, I clean up all that stuff in post production. If you're an independent producer like me, you have to freaking write, you have to edit, you have to do a certain amount of animation. I mean, you have to do everything, or you just don't work.
Yeah.
So usually
Right.
I'll clean it up in editing before I potentially send it to a client.
So on that topic, you write, direct, produce, and you teach. Which is the most rewarding?
Well, I started teaching 4 years ago, and if you would ask me the question 4 years ago, it would never be teaching. But I got to tell you, I've taught almost 600 students in the last 4 years at 3 different universities, and it's teaching. I love teaching. I really get a kick out of helping people. I get a kick out of having them change their careers. I enjoy it. I enjoy it more than or as much as filming. I do.
That's awesome. I can totally understand why you said that. Being in a classroom is something else, and seeing the kids learn is also a great thing. So you do this, you said, at 3 different colleges or 2 different colleges. Can you tell us more about what those roles entail?
So I was doing a seminar at Interdrone, and I guess there was one of the adjunct professor from Unmanned Vehicle University was there and said, we teach these institutional industrial drone pilots, and he goes, all our instructors are military. And he said, we don't really have anybody that knows how to use a camera. And a lot of the work that these people are required to do, they need to use a camera. We have, insurance adjusters that need to take pictures of roof. We have power line guys that need to take pictures of power lines. And we have, so he goes, so we have guys that can teach how to fire a missile, but we don't have guys that teach how to use a camera. So would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah, sure, fine. So they brought me out to Unmanned Vehicle University, and they put me through this hardcore training program where I learned everything. I learned how to do cell phone tower inspections, what's required, power line inspection, solar inspection, agriculture. So they taught me all that stuff because I'd be teaching it. And then I taught them about cinematography, photography. And then I started training. So their classes there are 2 weeks. They're usually 2 or 3 or 4 times a year. And there'll be 20, 30, 40 students. There's 3 instructor. They break us up into groups of 10. Very exciting, very hardcore, very fast pace. Through that, Los Angeles Tech, LA Tech, which is downtown Los Angeles next to the Staples Center, either they saw a posting from the Unmanned Vehicle University on LinkedIn, and they contacted me through LinkedIn and said, look, we want to start up a drone program. And I'm like, okay, cool, I could do that. And they didn't have it. So I went there, and of course, I do watch you guys on TV, on videos. So I looked around for all the really good online sources of people that I watch, and see what they were doing. And then through my own experience at Unmanned Vehicle University, I created a course. It's a 50-hour course at LA Tech, which includes about, 20 hours of, 15 to 20 hours of 107 training, and about 15 to 20 hours of flight time, practical flight. It's more of an introductory, because in 20 hours of flight, I personally don't believe you can be good enough to go out and get a job. Well, because the colleges are all connected, Grossmont College in San Diego, the dean there got wind of this somehow, and they brought me in. They asked me if I'd be interested in doing something there, and they would give me significant backing and support and let me develop the whole thing. So I developed a 105-hour course, about 45 to 50 hours of 107 training, and about 55 hours of flight training. So I started teaching there. We had 6 students in the first class, and the first class was in the gymnasium. That was exciting. And we graduated them. They all passed their 107. And they've all gone on to like really good jobs. They work for PG&E because they have contacts in all the industries because of Unmanned Vehicle University. So I'm able to forward my pilots to legitimate companies. And then the local news there did a TV story on the course. So they came out and they spent a day with me. Their news anchor, they did these live remotes. I had the drones flying around. I taught the host how to do it. And right after that aired, the college got 2,000 inquiries. We have a list. Well, we've burned through some of it now, but we probably have
Wow.
1,000 people on a waiting list to take that course, because they only take, the most I'll take is 25 at a time. We do 2 semesters, and that's it. So they just have to wait till I'm done before they can take the course. 40% of my students are women, are female. About 30% of them are former vets, military. I've Because it's community college, my students range from 18. My oldest student is 82. I have a 99.9% 107 pass rate, because I kind of teach it the way I learned it. And like I said, I've hired, some of my students are working on production companies if they want to go into cinematography and film. I put 5 people at PG&E inspecting power lines. I've put people at the Chula Vista Police Department, because I work really closely with Chula Vista. And now, so it is very fulfilling. It's neat to do this. And we didn't, and of course the pandemic didn't slow us down. We're outside, we're flying, so we're able to social distance. So that's the 3 class. I get inquiries at other universities to teach all the time, but it's like, I like this because it just takes up enough time that doesn't interfere with my, production time.
Yep.
It's awesome, and it sounds like you're a great teacher if you got such a response of so many people that are willing to take that course. Also, the fact that you said 40% are female.
Yes, 40% are
That's
female.
Amazing.
That's awesome too. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But apart from being a teacher, you're also a program director at DroneTV, correct?
Yeah, I do that too.
So can you tell us more about that part of your drone career and your drone life?
Yeah, so back in the day when this industry was starting and it was the Wild Wild West, there was drone
Yeah.
racing. I don't know if you guys remember that, but there was drone racing. Well, I gravitated to drone racing right away because it very much reminded me of the extreme sports that I was doing back when I was doing extreme sports. So there was not the DRL, the guys that were before them. I contacted them, and they were doing a drone race series from on the west coast of California, west coast here in California, from San Francisco all the way down to San Diego, 5 different stops. So I said, okay, cool. So I joined the tour, and we filmed it. We interviewed the pilots, and I thought, wow, this is really great. It kind of combines virtual reality with practical real world. So maybe it gets the kids that are just sitting in front of their computers outside in the fresh air. I don't know, they're still sitting down. So I figured if I was going to try to move this into the industry, so I contacted friends of mine at Red Bull and at these energy drinks and at the networks, because I have connections at NBC and all that stuff. And I pitched it to them, and Film On jumped on it. They were streaming a new streaming service, and then Sports Illustrated jumped on this at the beginning, and then I was able to cut a deal with an NBC affiliate. So, but it wasn't really getting the kind of exposure that I wanted. So I kind of bounced over to Roku, and I sent them a video of these drone races. They're like, "Oh wow, you need a Roku channel." So I created this DroneTV Roku channel, which is going to be about this drone racing stuff. And when we first launched it, took off like crazy. So DroneTV is a Roku channel that I started putting drone racing on. And it looked like it was going to be a really, really big deal. And then I've seen this because I've been in the extreme sport industry, action sports industry. I've seen this a lot. When a grassroots sport potentially starts, a lot of times you'll get corporations come in and just crush them. So big money come in and they think, oh, wow, there's going to be so much money to be made here. And they come in and they ruin the very thing that made the sport viral in the first place. The grassroots of it. Any kid could do this kind of thing. So as soon as I saw it going in a direction that I was very familiar with, man, I didn't do what I'd normally do in the past, where I try to work it. I just cut my loss, said, you know what, don't need to do this anymore. There's a lot of stuff going on in the drone industry. So DroneTV is like sitting there running reruns on Roku of drone racing from like 2015 or something like that. Now the channel's there. It's not easy to get a Roku channel. And I've been keeping in the back of my mind what I want to do with it, but I don't know what I want to do with it. It's like, I don't know. So.
Could be FPV videos. I see a lot of those popping up and people getting more creative, like Jay Bird Christensen, for example, with the bowling alley? Just a thought. Sure, you have lots of options, though.
That's actually a great shot, and that's a great point. What's happened is a lot of those racers that started out being able to fly FPV, they've jumped now into being more cinematographers because, again, the technology's caught up with them. You couldn't film FPV and get a 4K image until the new GoPro, right? You have GoPro 8, and then, of course, the DJI Osmo, and then the new DJI that just came out. Those cameras have
Yep.
super great resolution, and they have stability built into them. It wouldn't work before. So now a lot of those FPV pilots, they're jumping into cinematography, doing exactly what you're doing. Some of my crew, my graduates that I've hired 2 FPV guys that work with me all the time to create dynamic shots to supplement and complement the camera shots, right? Because you're always different shots, different look, different presentation. But I've actually, it's funny, he mentioned that. He had mentioned, I got this guy, his name is BJ. He had mentioned that same thing you just did, that, hey, we're doing these drifter cars. We got nowhere to put our content. But on YouTube, what about the Roku channel? I said, yeah, if you guys want to edit it, I don't want to do the work. But if you guys want to do the work, you can do the work. So it is a great idea, though. Thank you. I'll use it.
I appreciate that. It's what I'm here for.
Perfect.
So let's say, yeah, you've worked. I've actually looked at your IMDb page. For those that don't know, it's the Internet Movie Database, and that means that you have worked on some pretty big Hollywood productions. What if I wanted to have my name on one of those or get involved and work on one of those? What would you suggest to anyone who'd want to go that big, or like where would you start?
It's it's not an easy industry to get into, but it's not impossible. The idea is to find, well, I'm going to say somebody like me, but find independent producers and basically hound them till they bring you on the crew. Because when you're on the crew like that, when I'm doing a project, um, all the crew, depending on what position they're listed on that IMBD credit. And once you start building that up, then they're able to move to other opportunities. The industry got a terrible name for how they treated interns, not paying them or making them get coffee. But a lot of that's changed. You have to pay interns now, and they don't just get coffee anymore. So the opportunity to get involved in that, and also if filmmaking is where you want to go, I would say college or junior college, because there's avenues there to move into the film industry. Because at least out here in California, the studios and the smaller studios, they still look for some sort of a background in an education. Not like you need to go to you don't have to go to USC, right? I mean, but you can certainly go to a community college and get your brain wrapped around the concepts of editing and focus and framing and things like that. Another avenue which I always recommend to all my students is local television. Local TV channels are always looking for inexpensive starting out help, and some of the best training you can get is at a local TV station because they truly are in the ground, in the trenches, trying to get things done. And then you have to be persistent. You can't. This isn't a. It's there are no overnight successes. It took me. I got lucky. I got lucky. I really did, and able to move from basically an apprentice to a producer. But usually it takes years, and even with what I've done, I haven't been able to break through. There's like one more level, right? I'm not saying I'm Steven Spielberg or George Lucas, but there's one more level for me to direct an episode of Game of Thrones or direct an episode of Star Trek or something. So there's one more, and it is so difficult, even with what I'm doing, to break through that glass ceiling to get to that level. And it's also who you know. I mean, it really is who you know.
Yeah, it's true.
I got a question talking about those movie productions, especially the bigger ones. Like, what is it like to work with a drone on a set? I mean, things like location, the weather, the size of the aircraft you're going to be flying, the number of people that are involved, actors. Like, what comes into play when you want to use a drone on a set safely and responsibly?
Everything, every single thing you just mentioned. When you're on a set, whether, and I do a lot of TV commercials. So when you're on a set,
Hmm.
safety is number one, right? You need to set yourself an area that's 10 foot by 10 foot. You need a land. I use a landing pad, a Hoodman landing pad. I have cones that have blinking lights on them. I designate the landing
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
I designate my safe area. I wear a vest. I wear a helmet. My crew wears vests. My crew wears helmets. We have lights on them. We try to be as visible as possible. We make sure that everybody around us knows when we're taking off. They know when we're landing. We don't fly over any of the crew. I mean, it's uh, it, what television and film, movies, production. They're always about safety. It's sad to see about what happened with the shooting, but
Hmm.
it's really everybody's really about safety. And the drones initially at first, they didn't know a lot about them. So they were kind of apprehensive, when they were flying around a set. When we do,
Yep.
when we do a shoot, when we do a shot, it's I don't want to say it, there's variables, but I mean, we block it. If the car's going to go down the street and turn to the left, we before the car does that, the director and the people working, we fly the drone down the route it's going to take, so they have a visual of where that drone's going to be, and then we do 2 or 3 rehearsals before we film it. So everybody needs to be aware of it and know where it is. But yeah, it's and what's great is because I deal with that, I think as an instructor, I really imprint on the students how important safety is, and to make sure you're like following the steps right from the day, right from the moment you put your drone down on the ground.
Yeah, that I mean, I can totally imagine that sometimes maybe the safety that's the procedures that you want to follow might not always match up, I guess, with the pressure that somebody has to get a movie or documentary done. So I can imagine that can be challenging. Can you give us an example of one of the more challenging situations you've been in using a drone on a set professionally,
Well, I
whether
had
it's
to fly it.
weather or yeah,
I had to do. I was working on this series called Blaze, which is in pre-production. So we had to shoot inside in a set, and
yeah,
I got 600 hours of flight time, which apparently that's a lot, right? That's on my DJI drone because it keeps track. So, but the reality is I fly almost every day. When I'm teaching, I fly 3 days a week to demonstrate the lesson to the students. So I do that,
yeah,
like so I fly all the time. So I got a lot of hours. But you got a set, and I got to fly down this hallway, and they got a guy in a gurney, and they're pushing this guy that's dying. It's a hospital. It's a set, but it's not a hospital. It's a set. So there's a hallway, but there's no ceiling, but there's rafters, and between the rafters are the lights for the set. And so there's a guy behind, there's the EMTs behind him, there's the doctors in front of him, there's this little narrow hallway. And what they want the drone to do is they want the drone to fly in behind the guy as they push him through the doors, the fake doors, and then go down it and then get over him and then shoot down, right? All this with the drone.
yeah,
And then when we get to the end, is they push him into the next set of doors, the emergency room, which is fake, and to go over the doors into the rafters. So that was challenging because, as you know, you sort of pretty much lose GPS when you're inside. There's a lot of people around. The Mavics the blades they're like a freaking razor blades flying, spinning
oh yeah,
around. Real easy to slice and dice a person. And then you have these actors and stuff. So the one time we did it, I came through the doors and then I caught the side like of the fake walls, and then poop, 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 poop. And there you go, 3 props, just crack, crack, crack. Fortunately, when it went down, it's kind of slid down the wall. Didn't really hurt anything. Okay, great. And the director's like, "What?" He's like, "What is going on here?" I'm like, "Oh, just practicing, just practicing." So, challenge wise, flying wise, that was very challenging. That was extremely challenging to get that shot, not crash into a
yeah.
wall, and then I have to go up over the rafters at the end of the shot. So I had to go up in between and over the rafters. So yeah, it was very challenging. and it was a short distance, so stuff happened really quickly. Everybody's moving. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I would say that, so that was challenging in the terms of the nature of it. But the BMW commercial I did in LA just before the pandemic, that was on a scale. That was probably one of the more bigger things that I did, because the Disney Center, the Disney conference hall, the BMWs were going to pull down the street and turn and just drive down the street. So what they wanted was, they wanted my drone sort of to follow them down the street, and then arc back, sort of like do a half, sort of do like a half or quarter orbit as the car was turning. So I had to do a quarter orbit and then come back down behind them. And the thing about my quarter orbit was, to do the orbit, there's a building off to the side, and every single time I could hear the Mavic's warning thing go beep, 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 when it's like you're going to hit something, and then come back down and then get the shot. And we had to get that at sunrise sunrise in the morning. So you were talking about pressures like that, those shots had to happen. And the director was like, he was on me the whole time. So it was there was an adrenaline rush. It was nervous, and it's extremely challenging because you wear these headsets and you got some guy in your ear going, look, we need to get that shot. You need to come down, because he was able to get an HDMI feed, a video feed
Oh,
off
so
of
he could see what you were
my
doing.
controller.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's seeing this, and he's just like in my ear, and it was very hard. It's very hard to concentrate on your flight when somebody's going, get closer, get wider, turn them down, blah, blah, blah. And directors, they're great, but they also usually, standing next to the director is the agency for the client. So you have the agents. It's like a mom at a wedding, when you're filming a wedding, like the mom of the bride.
Yeah.
I did one wedding in my life. I haven't done one since. So it's kind of like that.
It's like being micromanaged. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's pretty nervous. You get nervous. You're trying to get the shot, and you get this guy saying, get closer, get closer. They don't understand the flight characteristics of the drone.
Yeah.
And and then we're talking about, it's a quarter mile. I mean, it's, coming down one street, going down the other street, it's almost the entire length of the shot was about a quarter mile. So there's a lot going on in a city. And then people don't realize that cities are like wind tunnels. So as you're flying down the road, as you get between the buildings, there's these eddies and currents of wind that are just moving everything around. I mean, it's really challenging to shoot in a city environment.
So
I can only imagine. That's an awesome example. Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Oh no, just kind of related to what you guys were just talking about. Who else do you have on set with you? Obviously, probably a visual observer, but is there any other position that's going to help you with everything that you do when you fly?
Yeah, well, there's always a visual observer, but actually I try to have two visual observers. I want somebody's eyes on the drone 100%. That's never out of their sight. And then I want somebody that's sort of next to me, closer to me, that's observing the monitor and the drone. So they're looking back and forth, and maybe you don't want to really call, they're all pilots. By the way, all my visual observer are pilots. More than likely, they've gone through my classes. They work with me a lot. So the second visual observer is more like a production assistant or a camera assistant. So he's relaying information to me, not specifically what I'm going to hit. Like, oh no, Skip, don't go that way. You're going to hit a pole, which the other visual observer is doing. This guy is sort of helping me adjust the shot. You need to come down. You need to get this in your frame. You need to, so two visual observers, but one of them is really taking the position of more like a production assistant or camera assistant, where the other guy is full-blown visual observer. He's just making sure I don't hit anything. Yeah, so always two people for sure, always, when I'm doing anything like that.
So I saw on your site that you use flight planning software in your operations. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What kind of programs they are?
Well,
what you use?
I really liked. I worked with Litchi. So I really, what's great about Litchi is, even though I wouldn't use it for filming, using Litchi is like creating a storyboard for drone flight. Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, it gives me the ability to sort of pay attention to the drone on a certain flight line without actually flying the drone, and take a look and see if that works. So I really like using Litchi for doing that. So you could say that Litchi is sort of like my storyboard. Of course, I use a Loft or AirMap to get my FAA authorizations, and then Google Earth. Google Earth is, I know it's not really flight software, but Google Earth Pro is significant on, I just did a huge project for, I do, besides cinema and film, I do a lot of high-end uh, construction and developer work, like high rises, buildings, resorts, and I started just doing houses, but now I just did a 40 story skyscraper in San Diego. I did a historical building in San Diego, so I do work for this big developer. And so what we were able to do was, before we took the drones out there, we were able to kind of recreate the flight that I wanted to take in Google Earth. So I'm not that good at Google Earth, but one of my students, go figure, right? One of my students is really great at it. So she went through the program and said, okay, well, if the drone's here, this is the look and that's the look. So it was really nice to get in cinematography, especially specifically for that, some really nice pre-visualization from Google Earth, and then in certain cases be able to create a flight path in Litchi. Because what I like about Litchi too is Litchi will let you adjust the camera, right? You can tilt it up and down, get a different view, and it's way easier than actually going out there and flying something. Put the drone up, not my good drone. Use a lesser drone to do that. Maybe one of the Phantoms that I have to do that flight path. So that's really, I've tried Pix4D for on and off for years, but uh, it, I love the program, but it's not the kind of program I need for the work that I do.
My question is, when you fly the drones on sets, what kind of filters do you use? What kind of accessories do you use? But also, how important is it to be able to live stream directly to a director what your drone or the camera on the drone is seeing? And also, do you use multiple people flying the drone, where one focuses on flying the actual unmanned aircraft, where the other person is controlling the camera and the gimbal? Can you tell us a little bit about all that stuff?
That's a great question. So remember when the Inspire first came out, it had two separate controllers, right? I thought, oh, this is great. I can focus on the camera and the other guy can focus on flying the drone. Oh my God. It was like Keystone Cops. It just, the camera's going one way, the drone's going the other way. There's no communication. It was a night. I did it like 3 or 4 times and said, this doesn't work. Either you
Yep.
either need two of you, or you need somewhere where you've been working for somebody for 50 years and your communication's spot on. It was really difficult. I gave that up right away. So that didn't work. I prefer to fly the drone and look at the camera. So we stopped at the two, but HDMI and the smart controllers, it is critical that if you're doing the director is going to want to see the shot, or the event
Yeah.
planner or the event coordinator. They're going to want to see the shot. So we talk about gear. I bring a portable 9-inch field monitor. 1080p field monitor, runs on batteries, a battery, so that I can plug it in, put it on a tripod, and the director can look at that. I can use about 10 to 15 feet of HDMI cable, so I don't have to be that close to him, but at least he can see what's going on. I've used filters in the past, and usually the only time I've used filters is more of a polarizing type filter if I'm flying anything to do with the water. But it seems maybe it's different with the Mavic Pro 3. But taking filters, I broke a gimbal just trying to get a filter on and off, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
I really, as much as I use filters on cameras on the ground all the time, but I just found that putting these things on the drones just were too delicate, and I broke one, and
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So what I try to do is I try to work around not having a filter on the drones, and either setting the f-stop or other settings in the camera, iris as needed to compensate. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so usually on a set I have 2 drones. I have the primary drone and a backup. I have a second pilot that has a drone ready to fly in case we have a problem with the first drone and the backup. Additionally, I do concerts, and we have a drone ready to go up before the other drone comes down. I did just before the
Yeah.
pandemic. I had a big contract with a music company. I was going to do 10 concerts. The first one was in Long Beach. It was Sublime. It was like a retro thing. And we did aerial coverage with the drones. We did it from out over the water, from behind the auditorium. It's just beautiful. It's really great stuff. It's too bad that that didn't happen. But we actually had 3 drones. We had 1 drone to the right of the stage, 1 to the left. And then when the batteries were getting down to about 20%, we put up the 3rd drone. Then we'd land. So there was always at least 2 drones in the air, 1 drone in the air to get the coverage. Even though it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't live, they were editing it. They were producing it as live. So we were trying to keep them a continuous feed from the sky. That went to
Yeah.
HDMI and it went to a switcher. They used a switcher, live switcher. So that was kind of cool. So always have the drone. I have 6 backup batteries. I'm using a DJI Air 2 right now. 6 backup batteries. I have a portable lithium battery brick charger that'll charge everything out in the field if needed. Because sometimes sometimes I've been out, even though my shot might not be that long. Sometimes you're out in the field and away for power for hours. I have an iPad Mini to do my flight planning on, to look at what airspace I need to get to potentially, and then I have a Osmo, or most of the time I'll bring my Sony mirrorless A7 for the ground, just to have it. So I'm always going with a ground camera that can shoot photos and or videos. 2 drones currently right now. It's a DJI Air 2S, and then usually a backup, a bunch of batteries and a backup battery charger, and then second pilot who's also VO with another drone. So that's the perfect scenario for out in the field. However, I've done shoots where I've had we did a car chase, and we had 5 drones flying at the same time. It's outrageous because they wanted to do the shoot. They wanted it one time. So what we did was we actually layered the drones at different altitudes and different positions, so that then when they were editing it, each drone actually wasn't in the view. It was really cool. It was a really neat shoot. So 5 drones. So that was bad.
I'm curious, with all this footage, and then I'm assuming you do some of the editing afterwards. What's your workflow on the editing? Do you record in log? Do you record in ProRes? What do you do in post typically for your footage? One thing that we hear from a lot of people, and that I try to teach a lot of people, is get your footage right so you don't have to do a whole lot of stuff in post. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So in most situations, unless requested, I don't do D-log, and if I'm doing that, then it's usually because they're going to edit and post, and they're going to do the color correcting and all that kind of stuff. In a lot of cases, especially in TV commercials, the time is just as important as creative. They need to get the stuff done. So a lot of times it's just shooting in the DJI case, I guess, was it H.264? They're just standard cine mode. So in TV commercials. However, like you were just saying, if it's more creative, if it's a music video or something like that, their people are going to want to edit it. They're going to want to color correct it. Right now, I can't do ProRes. I would love to. That's the new DJI drone. So it's a limitation currently that isn't a limitation anymore, especially when you're getting to a bigger project. I've been on sets where they're using Blackmagic 12K, Blackmagic 8K cameras. They're shooting in ProRes. They got these big Sonys on the set, and they would prefer that I was shooting in ProRes and I was shooting in log and all that kind of stuff like that. But also I have to explain to them the limitations of the technology, and that if they want to get Inspire or Matrix or one of these big $50,000 drones with a red on it, they certainly can. Hire that and hire me to fly that. And now the budget's going to go from, 2,500 to 15,000. And then they say, well, it's probably good enough just to use the video you're going to get. So there's that. But my workflow is I try to limit the video, right? I'm an editor. I try to shoot what I need. I want to start, I want to give myself a little bit of leader, a little bit of end, and shoot just what I need and turn off that camera, and then try to load it the next day and edit it down from what I shot, to get a quick offline cut of and go through it. Because what's great about I might shoot a scene 4 or 5 times, and you mess up. You just flying is not it's a skill. You need to keep practicing. You need to keep doing it. But it's tough sometimes to. I might shoot a scene 5 times, and maybe the 5th one is the one that works. I'm looking at the
Yeah.
first 4, going, "What am I doing? These are terrible." So usually by the 5th one, I know I can get it. So the workflow is I don't like to edit anymore. I do edit for special clients. Again, I just want to go out and fly. I edit my own work because for my reels and my portfolio and stuff like that, I'll edit my own stuff. But I try not to. I prefer to pass the footage on to somebody else. But I do have a couple of what I call sweet sugar daddy clients I've been working with for 5 years or longer, and they expect a certain level of service. So I shoot, I edit, I create the animations, whatever it is they want me to do. Yeah.
I had to shoot some Apple ProRes 422 HQ footage when I tried out the Mavic 3. And those files are
Oh,
huge. Yeah, they're huge. I mean, it takes a while. Even with DJI's little fiber optic cable that they give you with the Cinemodel. I mean, it'll take an hour, I think, at least with me, to upload from the drone because the Cinemodel has the internal SSD, but to upload from the drone to the computer, a 30-second clip, maybe an hour. Whereas if you just,
wow.
if you shoot
Great.
H.265, it's like, maybe 56 seconds so the difference is incredible. But anyway,
I can't. Oh, you're so lucky. I can't believe you flew that thing. Oh my God, so jealous.
yeah.
So
Uh,
jealous. And then
well, I
got
had to
to
give it
try out
back.
the ProRes.
Yeah, I had to give it back pretty much right away though, because
Too
they're
bad.
sending it out to the second wave of reviewers. I write for DP Review, besides doing this wonderful podcast. So um, it is actually, I am impressed. There are some shortcomings, but I am impressed with, just the connectivity. And then I tested out APAS, which allows it to detect and avoid obstacles by either braking in front of or bypassing them. So I was able to get it into a forest.
And how'd that work?
Pretty well for the most part. It did dodge trees, and when I flew it towards trees, it found an alternative path around them for the most part, but it didn't detect a tiny little branch sticking out, and one of the rotors got caught, and it fell to the ground. But it was in soft mud, and the camera was kind of bent at an
Oh,
angle, and I was able to snap it back into the place. So the gimbal is a lot more durable than on past models. I asked my rep about the design, but I haven't heard back from him yet. But I was impressed with that. Um, so I went, and there's something. Oh God, I forgot what it is. You can hit on the remote, and the drone will beep, and you can go. I was able to locate it in this vast forest filled with trees. I walked through and was able to pick it up and recover it. So
that's nice.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, you're so lucky. I cannot wait to get my hands on one of those. I
I
mean, I'm going to
I
buy
just got
one.
mine last night.
Obviously, yeah, it's a big investment. Well, I bit the bullet on the Inspire when it came out.
Yeah.
And never got enough work relating to the Inspire to pay it off. But we talked about this earlier. I have been using it as a prop. So we use it to chase bad guys in scenes where drones are bad, and then we use it to light.
Ah,
We use it to light scenes. We can put 6 lume cubes on that, and it's just amazing the way it lights up. It's unique too, because when it's overhead about 100 feet, 50 feet, and you have these lume cubes on it, the lighting effect is a ball. It gives you sort of a ball of light. It's different than having a light mounted on something.
mhm.
It's really a cool look, a different kind of look. Anyway,
Yeah, it kinda looks like a Terminator Judgment Day type
yes,
drone, right? Remember
no,
they
yes,
had those drones flying out around it. It has kind of the same silhouette. So I think moving on, what just really quickly, what's your opinion on remote ID?
I hate it. I just, it's. Let me see. Let's. So first of all, I believe first, obviously I've been here since there was no rules or regulations. I absolutely believe in taking an FAA test. I think people should be educated. Fly drones, you're flying in airspace, could be dangerous. I think, I personally think they should take it one step more. And maybe I've heard this on one of your shows. I think there should be a practical test. I think like Canada does, there should be something they should designate instructors like myself, just like they do for airplane pilots, to be designated flight instructors. And you should at least know how to take off and land and fly a straight line and something. You should know how to do that. And so I think remote ID just creates another level of what the heck is this all about? I know there's a privacy issue with that on who's going to have access to the remote ID. And it's kind of like in the real world here, drones have been around since 2013. It's like, I mean, ever since they've been coming out, it's been, oh my God, it's end of times, it's Armageddon. Like the story I saw in your video, your YouTube video about, the drone that flew into the substation. Oh my God, okay. There's another way to take out a substation. Just go to Home Depot, buy some chain link fence, and when you're riding by on your bicycle or skateboard, just toss it in there. It'll blow out a substation too, and you just keep going. When I was a kid, like a young kid, I remember this blackout that happened in our neighborhood. I think I had some friends that might have just taken a chain and tossed it up over the power lines. Poof. So the idea that this is some sort of a security breach. Oh my God, it's terrible. And that we need remote ID to track everybody. I know there's either the Modeling Association and a lawyer. I think Rupert, I think Jonathan, and a few of them are suing to stop that. And I hope they do. I'm concerned that at least the way, and you guys can correct me because I know I've seen stories that you've done on this, but I think the way I understand it is remote ID is going to be available to the public, right? So I'm flying my drone in my neighborhood and I'm doing legal stuff, and some crazy guy is online and he says, "Oh, there's that drone pilot guy flying over our neighborhood. There he is. He's Skip Fredricks. Here's his ad. Here's all his information." And I got some nut job showing up on my doorstep. So I think they need to look. I mean, airplane pilots, and you're a pilot, right? I think, right? You're a pilot, real pilot, airplane pilot. So I think the idea is, and I'm taking. Oh, by the way, I'm taking flying lessons. I started just when the pandemic started. So I flew once in an airplane, and then the flight school closed down because you're in this little Cessna 150, and the guy's like this close to your face. But I figured since I know all the ground school stuff, I take the ground school test and I go learn how to fly because I thought it was really cool. But the idea is, I don't mind if maybe like they do with private pilots. You fly through airspace, you hit a transponder, there's a number, they know who you are. But this constant information, as soon as your drone goes up in the air, being fed to whoever, I just don't like it. I just don't really like it at all. So I know I'm very opinionated on that, but
That's okay.
and the ridiculous things we've heard about. Oh no, Chinese drones are gonna subvert the entire security of the United States. I get in debates on that all the time. So it's kind of like at a certain level, it's like, go back to your world is flat and your that reality and stay away from my drone stuff. So I can get very opinionated about that.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think they keep comparing remote ID to having a digital license plate, but it's nothing like a license plate, because then only police enforcement would be able to track down who the owner and the driver is, and not the public. So I agree very much with what you said. I kind of want to go back to the Mavic 3 real quick. Are you getting one, and what are you most excited about from the Mavic 3? What is it that makes that drone cool and good?
Yes, I am getting a Mavic 3. I'm going to try to set it up so it's a Christmas present to myself. So when it comes in, I will wrap it up. I will put it under the tree, and I will actually open it because,
Pretend you
why
don't
not?
know what's
And
in the box.
yeah, I can put from Santa on it or something. So
Yeah.
definitely want to get it. I'm excited for the larger sensor. I'm excited for the larger sensor because bigger is better, at least with drones, maybe other stuff. But better for low light, better for matching other cameras. It's kind of like I'm always trying to match the resolution with a camera on the ground. And now, just when 1 inch is like, wow, 1 inch sensor, now it's 4/3, now it's full frame. So now I'm looking at my Panasonic, my Sony A7, my Panasonic, all my ground cameras, and thinking, oh man, I got to upgrade now to 4:3 or to full frame. So it's nice that this is 4:3. I mean, the Air 2 is 5.6. This is 5.6K. That's fine, whatever. Also, I think the zoom camera thing is going to be cool. I've seen a few articles online about it, and some people didn't like it because I guess it went from a ×1 to a ×7. There's no for the physical zoom. There's no in between. But I also saw versions of the digital zoom that looks pretty good. So I think it's kind of neat that it gives you a second option when you're flying to do something different. I did a live, so KMIR, NBC, the NBC affiliate out here in Palm Springs, they did the Veterans Day Parade. So I filmed that with my drone. They took a live feed, and I shot that on the DJI Air 2's digital ×2, and on a 1080 feed, which is what the television station is, they're not 4K, it looked great. So I know it doesn't have the same resolution, the same size sensor, but I'm interested to see what I can do with it. And heck, what drone pilot doesn't like 45 minutes of flight time or something crazy like that, 43 minutes? Even if you don't get that, it's still going to be more than the 20 minutes I get or 25 minutes I get on the Air 2. So that's like, whoa, that's cool. And then the new smart controller. I have a smart controller. I got it from my original Mavic 2 Pro. And when I sold my Mavic 2 Pro, I sold it with the original controller. I kept the smart controller, which I'm using on my Air 2. But I've also watched some videos and seen all the cool stuff that the new smart controller does. So I'm excited to get that. But as we talk about all the cool stuff, all of a sudden I've jumped from the $2,100 version. I jumped over the $2,900 version. And now we're looking at the $5,000 version. And I mean, it's a lot. It's a pretty steep hit. I would have preferred, I mean, I don't know what the markup is or whatever, but it would have been nice if maybe DJI would have came in at somewhere like 3,800. It would have been easier I would have done that on the first day. Now I'm trying to justify it. Like, oh, do I?
Yeah, it gets expensive for sure.
It's a big hit. I mean, it's a lot of money. I think.
Well,
even,
what
targeting
you can
mid-level
do.
producers. We don't make that kind of money.
Yeah. What you can do, so it's the DJI RC Pro, which is the new updated version of the smart controller. And I actually got this wrong because someone had said, oh yeah, it'll work with the smart controller. Well, no, it works with DJI's new RCI Pro. You can get a Mavic Pro, I guess, for the $29.99. I don't know off the top of my head how much the DJI's RC Pro, the new updated smart controller, is, but that will work so you don't have to get the SIN. I think at this point, if you're getting the SIN, you're getting it because you want the Apple ProRes, and then it has 1 terabyte of internal storage. I think those are the two other differentiating factors. Oh, and I think it comes with 2 sets of ND filters as well.
So you just made me very excited here for a moment. So let me go back over this to make sure I'm understanding this right. So you're saying the mid-level one, the one that's like $3,000. You can buy a smart controller for that, right? Is that what we're saying? So I can use a smart controller with that drone, right?
Actually, I might have one better for you.
You can't use the traditional smart controller that only works with
smart controller
2.
The new one.
Yeah. I need to Google this and see how much it is.
Guy.
Oh,
it's 1,100, I think.
$1,199.
Oh, so that's the new one.
So you're still going to be paying $4,200 instead of $5,000.
Right. Because here's
an
the thing
$800 difference.
Right. So, well, boy, you guys, this is now this is really exciting for me. So let me go through this now. So you get the $3,000 Mavic 3. Then what you do is you're saying the new smart controller. It's called Smart Controller 2 for lack of a better name. That's
RC
about
Pro,
RC whatever. That's like $1,000. What is that? How much?
$1,199. So $1,199.
So 3,000, 1,200, you're only at 42. You're saving like what, $800 or more?
$800.
Because we didn't talk about this, but the problem with Pro, like I have a 27-inch, no, the 30. I have the iMac Pro on my desk right now. It's over here.
Mhm.
iMac Pro, the big one. It's got 64 gigabytes of RAM. It's got a freaking 2 terabyte SD drive, right? The digital, a hard HDD, whatever it is, solid state drive. It crawls with ProRes. It just, you have to do the proxies, which you have to convert, which takes forever. When I put ProRes here, it crawls. Now on my desk over here, under there. That's a Mac. That's the Mac 13-inch Mac Pro, the new one with the M1. Now they're saying, that's just the little one though. They're saying that can handle ProRes better because whatever Apple did to the M1. Now they've come out with the M1X, right, or the M1 Pro, and they come out with the 16-inch one. Now they're saying that can do pretty good with ProRes. So what sucks is I just bought this computer last year and spent like $5,000 for it. So now I'm looking at Apple saying, okay, what do I get when I trade it in? Because I need to get the new one because I got to do the ProRes. So in terms of to go to ProRes, I got to change everything. I have to upgrade my computer. I have to upgrade the drive in the computer. So I got to spend $5,000 on a computer, $5,000 on a drone. I'm like,
yeah, this is what we do. This is our flow here. We have we work with ProRes, and that's why we get the M1, and then this is the new one, the M1 Max, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing with ProRes. It just flies through it. It's crazy.
No big deal.
So I'm going to have to do that because if I get the ProRes. However, so the dilemma, man, I'm going to go. You're the experts here. So the dilemma is, I always try to get the flagship because you're future proof here, right? So I get the Inspire as soon as it came, the Inspire 2 as soon as it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much it didn't really. That was like 5 years. That drone did fine for me. So so now do you get this ProRes Mac Mavic 2 or 3, and then man, you're good to go for 3 years with this drone? Because I had my Mavic Pro 2 for a long time, right?
That's how I look at it. That's how I look at it.
It was 3 years between the release of the original Mavic 2 series and now this Mavic 3. It was a 3-year gap.
Yeah, I tell you, Skip, I looked at it the same way when I get this one, and I said, let's just get the highest end, because I've had Macs for the last over a decade now. And I know that they last for a while. I think this is only my 3rd laptop since I've had Macs, and I think it started 12 years ago. And this will last for probably 3 or 4 years because of the power that's in it. They've made such a jump with those new chips, the M1 and then now the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. They made such a jump. I don't see how this is going to be obsolete in less than 3 years, probably even 5. And we know that they're lasting machines. So to me, it's an investment. This is something that now we can go and work quicker. I can export a file. I exported a video yesterday. It was an 8-minute video in this is in 4K, 30 frames per second, was all done in ProRes, and it took only a few minutes to do it, to export it, and that's big time saving for us. So it's an investment. I think it's all an investment. It's same for the Mavic.
I'll chip in here as well, Skip. I have another reason for you to go out and buy this guy. The new controller works with your favorite Air2S.
Oh, really?
Oh, no kidding.
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. Apparently now they're shipping, because they ran out of the old smart controller apparently. So the rumor is that they're shipping the Air2S now with the new smart controller, the RC Pros, it's officially called. So if you need another reason to go spend more money on drones, then maybe this is one.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
You're welcome.
I was going to just...
Well, no, that's super good news. I mean, because one, I can always sell off my old controller. There's a market for that. Yeah. And then 2, I get a brand new controller, control 2 drones. So that makes me even really happy.
There you go. So you're saving money in a way, right?
You guys, now you're saving me money, so I can go out and spend more money. Which Christmas is coming, Black Friday sales.
They're just
about ready to do all this
stuff. Help you out here.
Thank you.
I think my final point was going to be our friend Ken Dono, who runs the original Dovo channel. We're all fans. Just really personable. He's on there every day creating new content. He made a pretty compelling case for why you might not need the SIN. And because if you are uploading a lot of video to YouTube, for example, do you really need ProRes? Are people going to be able to tell the difference? However, you, Skip, you're working on professional films, so that might be justifiable for you.
Yeah.
But I think for most of us, we probably don't need it. But either way, I'm glad that I was able to share about the DJI RC Pro. You did mention, you had some Sony cameras, and my final question for you is, Sony is eventually, and it keeps getting pushed back, but they're eventually going to be releasing their very first drone, the Alta, which is pretty much compatible with every Sony model, alpha model anyway, possible. Are you excited about that? Do you see yourself investing in it? There are some shortcomings like 12-minute battery life, but what are your thoughts?
Well, because it's Sony and because I have Sony cameras, there's an interest level there, but it also reminds Sony building a drone reminds me of another camera company building a drone, and I'm gonna have to fly it before I really make a judgment on
Yeah.
it, because I remember that other camera company and the drones just dropping out of the sky. So,
Yeah,
but
it's
I'm
true.
assuming because Sony is Sony and they're bigger and they've probably stolen tech guys from all over the world. It'll probably be a good camera drone, and the fact that you can put all these, the Sony A7s and all those are great. Those are great cameras. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. But I also heard that they're not going to be cheap either, right? The drones are expensive.
$9,000 for the body. I think it includes two batteries, which is what it takes to operate it. It does not include the gimbal, though.
Oh wow! And the
Yeah,
camera and the lenses.
Yep.
I don't know what they're.
So just to give you an
I
idea.
don't know what these guys are. I don't know what they're thinking. That's just too much. A
Well,
movie studio. Here's the market. If you're gonna have to spend 10,000 plus for a drone, if you're freaking Disney or one of the smaller studios like Gower Studios or something that are shooting TV shows and major stuff, you're not going to get a $15,000 drone. You're going to go ahead and get the $30,000 drone that you can put a red on it. So if you can afford a 15,000 drone, you're going to put a red on it. Guys like me
mhm.
can't afford a $15,000 drone. We're going to get the DJI drone. It's a lot of times it just comes down to the budget. And but it's great. It's great to be Sony, and they might think, oh, everybody in the planet's going to buy this, but I don't know. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money
I
for
keep
that.
wondering when it's going to come out. It was
Well,
initially slated for spring, and then they had an event in October in Glendale. I was invited, but I don't live out in California anymore, so it didn't make sense for me to go. But it'll be interesting to see. But in this instance, I'm going to let Greg ask the final question.
oh, the final question was so much
Yes.
fun. You
Oh
guys
no,
are.
but Greg's got it.
So we always ask, and you may have more than one answer for this one, but what is your favorite drone to fly?
Well, I was gonna say I would have said the DJI Mavic 2 Pro, but I'm not going to say the DJI Air 2. I freaking love this thing. I love the shots. I love the maneuverability. I actually like the app better. I like the Fly app better than the Go
Hmm.
4 app. I think it's just
Yeah.
easier, simpler. I enjoy it. I just freaking love it. I fly it all over the place. And the signal, I think the signal's good. It seems better in the wind. Um, I have a fleet. I have 4 Phantom 4 version 2s that I teach on. I have 4 Autel Evo 1s that I teach on. Um, I know you guys are going to laugh. I have 5 DJI Mini 2, the one with the 4K camera. I have 5 of those.
Me too.
What a great drone to teach on. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're like so easy to teach on. They're super stable. They don't drift. You can fly them without a phone attached to them initially to get experience. I can put 5 of them in a Pelican case that
And you're good to
fits
go.
in my car. I'm trying to convince the college to sell. The college has Phantom 4 Pros too, to sell them off. We can keep maybe a couple because they have the big drones, but I love the video. I have one in my car. I have my own in my car all the time, charged up, ready to go in case something happens somewhere. I need to put a drone up. So in terms of it sort of reminds me of it's like the cell phone of drones. You could always have an aerial picture or video like that quick, right? You just put the drone up and it's crazy. So as excited as I am about the Air 2S and the cinematography that it provides and all the good things like that, I got to tell you, I freaking love the Mini. I freaking love it. It's crazy. I do. I got a box of them, and they fly great. I've also been using the Mini to shoot interior stuff, right? Because a lot of times
Yeah.
it's a 4K camera, but I got the little cage that comes with them. You know, the propeller
I
coverings.
love that cage.
You
I
can
love that
fly.
cage.
I'm in this really nice office complex. Fly right down the halls. If you can bounce off the walls. You know, you can. It is the freaking funnest, coolest thing ever. So I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna kind of change my vote. Can I?
Yes.
You said
You
did you
can
say
only
most
have
fun to fly?
one. Only have
I'm gonna
one.
change my own vote, and I'm gonna go back to the
Well, you
Mini
get one shot.
2 because it is the most fun
Me
to
too.
fly. It's super easy, and actually, in a pin, I have students. Which here's on a flip note. So back to my students real quick. I have students that are starting out in the business. 2 years ago, if they wanted to start their own, let's say, local real estate photography company, they would have had to get a $1,500 drone. They would have had to,
Yeah.
whatever it is, would have cost them $1,500. Now they can go out and go to Costco if they want, and they can get a $350 Mini 2.
Yep.
They can buy a couple extra batteries online later on. 4K camera, super great photo resolution. They can take real estate photos and videos all day long and make money doing it. And so what I do is I really emphasize to my students, look, great way to get started, great way to build up hours, and use this drone, go buy it, $350. You just started yourself, you're in business. And so it changed everything. It changed everything for people that want to start out. Easiest thing to do when you start out is real estate. There's tons of jobs in real estate photography. There's the sourcing companies that call them Uber for drones, right? That pay you $50 a house or $150 a house. The money's crap, but you know what? It's better to get paid to practice.
getting a
I look at it as
start, yeah.
practice. I did drone base. I did hundreds of missions. Where else am I going to get that kind of practice? You know, where else am I going to get practice flying around houses and getting accurate shots and accurate videos? So it's kind of like, and I get paid $50 or I get paid $100. Okay, that's cool. So it's kind of like you can take this $350 drone and you can go out and you can get paid. And well, how cool is that? And then for fun, it's a blast. I was at okay, I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but so my students were at the class where at Grossmont College were parked out there. I have a Fiat 500 Turbo. So the back tailgate was open. I took my Mini. I flew in the passenger side and out the back side, right? Flew in the passenger window, out the back window. It was so easy. And then also there's the mental of like, oh, if I crash a $325 drone, who cares? You know, there's always, anytime you put a drone up, there's like $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. You're like, oh, shoot. But $350 drone, whatever, crashes, falls in the ocean. I don't really. So it's easier to fly when you're not stressed out about, something. So that's my favorite.
That was awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And you're just a wealth of knowledge, and your passion for drones in the industry just really shines through. And we need as many people like you as possible, because you're really just pushing things forward, and you just set a great example. And I love hearing that 40% of your students are women. That's really encouraging. So have a wonderful day, and we just appreciate your time.
Oh no, thank you so much. This is really great. And yeah, Interdrone was fun and meeting you was fun. And like I said, I watch you guys, I look at the videos, I've learned really so much. And so you guys need to keep up what you're doing too, because it's a great resource. I really like it. And I do I do watch the videos. So every day I get an email like, wow, what are we talking about today? And so it's good stuff to see. So hopefully, fortunately, we can all get back to some sort of normalcy next year, and there might be I didn't go to any of the trade shows this year. I didn't feel comfortable. I'm hopefully going to CES this year because I'm
Oh
doing
yeah,
some things with Women in Drones. Actually, I'm going to help film their Women in Drone award thing. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh,
Apparently,
nice.
there's going to be a couple of good drone things at CES, and
sweet.
they're already talking about InterDrone maybe coming back now in Commercial Drone Expo. So hopefully next year will be better. I don't know. I mean, obviously, who knows the way things are,
We
but
hope.
hopefully doing that. But fortunately, right now it's Christmas is coming. The holidays are great. I'm filming for the NBC affiliate out here. I'm filming the Christmas parade. I just got approval for my waiver. I had to get a manual approval, and it's at night, and so it's a parade of lights, and it's in it's close to Palm Springs Airport. It's not close, but I still had to get approval. So it's going to be exciting to film. So I'm going to have my drone. We're going to do live. It's going to be at night. I love doing nighttime stuff more than anything. I love filming at night. I've done a bunch of shoots at nighttime. So we're going to do a parade. It's December 4th. It's the Christmas parade. So that's kind of neat. My sister's lived out here in Palm Springs for like 15 years. I come out here all the holidays before I moved out here. And it's the thing. You got to see the Christmas parade. So now that I'm filming it for NBC, that's going to make it even cooler, make it more fun. I filmed Santa.
Well, that's awesome.
Excellent.
So if you're
Thank you.
if you're not a subscriber yet, like Skip is, I'm sure he's a subscriber. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, especially if you're watching on YouTube. And we post videos every Tuesday, so make sure that you get the notification turned on. And then we'll see you guys next week.